Right, and so this is the funeral procession of our grandma, Mama Muleme Ngoma, who joined the church, I think, some 10 years ago, Church of God Zambia, of course, Chipata local church. And I think she passed on, that should have been on, is it Friday or so? Yeah, Friday or so, and she was put to rest on Monday, yeah, Monday. And so she was very inspiring. And so the church service was held at Revelation Church. For your own information, she passed on at the age of 88. And she loved her God so much, so much. Um, Mleo mfako febali abate mwasana lesa wabo. And when it comes to the area of giving, she was always number one, even on things she did not understand. As long as it concerned money, she was willing to give, even twice. I think a picture in our heads will never depart. And so we were privileged also, to be visited by the men of God, Bishop Chone, Bishop Sterling Koma, Bishop Mukuka, of course, the hosting pastor in terms of the district. We also had Pastor Mshasha, and Pastor Kalenga. Right, and so the ladies here were just jubilating. This kind of a life is not a life that you mourn. We were even telling Abalupo, we know sometimes there is always that sense of loss. You always want to see your grandma, you always want to see your mom, you always want to see your sister, your aunt, and stuff like that. But I will encourage them to say, nowadays, living up to the age of 88, it's not a joke. It's not a joke. And so we encourage the church and the family to just celebrate this life. It's worthy celebrating. So bantu bale imbe nyimbo fida fine na bebele nje beten tu imbe nyimbo shakubati bashana, because I think for all information ba Muleme Ngoma, she was very old, but she loved dancing. She loved dancing, and so you could tell. And so this is now Pastor Mshasha sharing the word. He spoke a lot of encouraging words, especially to the family of the deceased, and also to the congregation. I think I was also quick to remember the commitment of our grandma in church, the love for music, and her commitment as well. I remember vividly that she time and again told us, imwe bana imwe funa mukanishike pamene pano pa church. And so only our wishes, I think, were fulfilled. And so these are like great grandchildren, and yeah, at the age of 88, you rarely have like children living. And so she only had like grandchildren, great grandchildren, and things like that. And our ladies also did a very commendable job. They sang along as usual. They paid homage to the deceased by standing. But it's a culture of the ladies, and so you understand. So Pastor Mshasha, we were in church. I must also tell you that the church was like fully packed, and a lot of people were also outside, because the church couldn't contain like all of the people. And so at the time of body viewing, we allowed first people that were outside to come in. And you can imagine we didn't even have like the choir in here, because all of this place was taken up by Pastor Bwalia there, Emmanuel Bwalia from Revelation. And so we didn't have like the choir ministering, and so all of this place was taken up. That's our mom there, my Bishop Nyonyo. And so with the ladies, there are a lot of things. I remember because this video is missing out the part of tributes, and so I remember what our mom there, my bishop, said. She said actually the message that touched or brought about the conversion of Mama Muleme Ngoma was actually preached at a funeral, at the funeral of her great grandchild. And but we were actually telling people to say it's at moments like these that sometimes you just allow God to speak to your heart. You give your life to Christ. If the life that we are celebrating here was won to Christ through the funeral, and who are we to harden our hearts even now? Pastor Mshasha there still speaking. I think he spoke for about 30 minutes or so. And those are some of the highlights that were notable from her life. She was a giver, undisputedly. She always loved God. I think she's one person. She used to tell me that I think she Catholic. I think so. She was Catholic, but she came to give her life to Christ at a very old age. She passed on at the age of 88, but you can imagine she was with us for about 10 years. Yeah, and so that's it. And so there are so many positive lessons that one would pick from the life of our grandmom. And so that's it. We were still in church, yeah. We're still in church, and you could see the emotions running through the kids, the great grandchildren, and so now was time for body viewing. And so we started with people from outside. Like I said, a lot of people were outside, and so we started with people from outside, and then people from inside. Just look at this. The ladies were just celebrating alive. The fellow church ladies there, you know. Oh my goodness. Look at that. People heartbroken. Anyway, sometimes you can only encourage the bereaved family because there are no better ways to explain uh, how certain lives ought to be celebrated. And so the pastors came through, and they needed to offer a prayer. That's Pastor Kalenga closing in a prayer the church service, and so getting ready to go to the graveyard. And so the cemetery was actually Chingwere cemetery. And so the ladies, as usual, they've carried the body. That's a grandmother, Mama Muleme Ngoma, may your soul rest in peace. The putting the casket in the in the canopy there for the funeral. What's even the name of this funeral parlor? Right, and so finally we are at Chingwere, and so this was time for laying of wreaths. And who were these? I don't know. Maybe the way we were limited in terms of the flowers, and so we only had these banquet flowers, and so people were doing it, a number of them in categories, and stuff like that. You see, um, a lot of people even came through to the graveyard to just witness her laying down, you know, putting her into a final resting place where the body is concerned. People are even saying a prayer, and that happens to be Mrs. Zulu Esnat rather, and she should be the eldest of the grandchildren. Yeah, I stand to be corrected. I think she's the eldest, and it's on son's funeral that Mai Muleme Ngoma gave her life to Christ through the sermon that was preached there by our late Bishop Naison Nyonyo Senior, and she's also a member of our Church of God Zambia, Chipata Local Church in particular. And so those are great grandchildren, because that should be given there. Yeah, and yeah, so that's it. Yeah, still some people were coming through. Some people were coming through. And one thing I loved was the fact that if you go to my previous video, the live video that was taken from this same from the graveyard, you realize that the ladies were singing throughout all the way. They were singing all the way. They were singing all the way, and so this was great. This was great. It was some great escort put out right there. Yeah, it was. You've seen the ladies there, busy dancing, busy celebrating. People tell us that there are only two important days in one's life. One is when you were born, because you were introduced to this world, and so the second, I think, is of course when you accept Jesus Christ as the Lord and personal Savior. That's like giving a definition to your purpose on earth. And then thirdly, it's the day that you depart, because your chapter on earth will have closed, and the troubles, the issues of this world would have been a thing of the past. You would have passed on to glory. And so at this particular time, the programmer, the master of ceremony, had called upon Pastor Mshasha, the wife, and our our mom here, my Bishop Naison Nyonyo, and so the three of them held the flower together and just laid it in memory of in honor of our late Mama Muleme Ngoma. Right. It was, and they said a prayer, a little short prayer right there. And of course, we had ordered, because as usual, people in the graveyard, if you just leave the flowers like that, they steal. And so these were pastors, like the final ones to give. Yeah, Pastor Kuka, Pastor Kalenga, and um, Bishop Nkoma there. And we ordered the gentleman to just, like break the flowers. It's so disheartening to learn that people steal flowers. The moment you step out, they would steal and sell to other people, that would be burying, say, a little later after you know. And so the ladies now were invited to come and give, I think, to come and lay the flowers as well. Yeah, and so they said, no, don't worry, we'll do it. We'll hold one, all of us. And so they did just that. I loved the ceremony. I loved the sense of joy in the ladies. These are worthwhile lives to celebrate. You know, uh, they deserve to be celebrated. Um, you've seen, because there was only one flower for the ladies, and so only a few came as representatives, to Mama Muleme Ngoma. I think one few things we'll never forget is a giving hand, her love for music, her love for God, her love for church, And so, family, thank you so much for all of you that contributed in whatever way. Thank you so much for being part of this, the escort. May God bless you. Shalom, shalom.